new opportunities, new technologies and new experiences. So while our teenage years may feel pretty weird, they're also pretty wonderful.
I hope that your teenage years were both weird and wonderful. So, top tips of how we can help our students and our children to get through these challenging times and maintain a degree of emotional and mental health. Communicate. In the UK, we're dreadful at communicating, I believe. Parents talking to school, raising issues with the school, asking for school's advice, asking for school's experience of their particular child, and vice versa. The school asking parents whether they've noticed anything at home going on. Communication is absolutely vital through anybody involved with the care of a young person. There is scientifically a proven link between a young person's emotional and mental health on the one hand and their academic performance on the other. And unless we get that right, unless we put a young person's well-being first and foremost, their academic results are not going to be as good as they may otherwise be. Prevent a young person, please, by feeling that they're going to be defined by the grades they achieve. Of course, grades are important. We all think they're important. The students think they're important. They are important. But do they actually define a young person as a human being? I've spoken to, well, I can think of two in the last year. Two grade 10 students who had been unhappy, and both of them said that they felt that if they didn't get decent grades, their parents would think less of them, that they are, in effect, defined by their grades. That is pressure. Focus on what's really important. Yes, maths is important. Yes, chemistry is important. Yes, history is important. But I want you to do a little exercise for me. I want you to think back to when you were 16 years old. I know it's a long time ago, Martin, but get back there somehow. You're 16 again, okay? And I want you to measure yourself as a 16-year-old against each of 5 key skills. And I want you to give yourself top marks if you possibly can. I want you to mark yourself out of 5 for each skill, okay? So when you were 16, how self-aware were you? How well do you know about your strengths and your weaknesses? The things you valued and the things you didn't. The way your emotions worked. 5 out of 5? Give yourself 5 out of 5 as a start. Secondly, when you were 16, how socially aware were you? Could you stand in the shoes of other people and actually try and understand what they're going through, what their life is like? Or were you very much living for yourself? When you were 16, you will have gone through various emotional storms. How good were you at self-managing, at coping when you didn't get the result you wanted? When there was a problem with relationships in your family? When you didn't get selected for the team or weren't invited to the gathering? Could you continue to cope? Could you continue to function? You will have been upset, angry, frustrated, and all that stuff, but could you have continued to function, or did those pesky emotions blow you away? When you were 16, what sort of team player were you? What were you like with relationship skills, working with other people, perhaps even people you didn't get on with terribly well? Were you a team player? Could you resolve little bubbling conflicts? Remember, you're giving yourself a mark out of 5 for each of these. Finally, I hope that when you were 16, you made some seriously bad decisions. Because after all, it is through making bad decisions that we can really learn about how to behave next time. So did you learn from your bad decisions, or are you still making those decisions now? And when you've given yourself a mark out of 5 for each one, I wonder what score you get, having been really generous. Me? I was ridiculously generous. I gave myself 5 out of 5 on 3. I gave myself 4 out of 5 on a 4th. But on the 5th one, I could only give myself 2 out of 5, and that was generous. So I thought, God, dude, that's no good. What about now, age 66? Well, I get 3 out of 5 on that weakness. So I thought back to my primary school and my secondary school and my university tutors and my rugby coaches and my friends and my family and my wife and me. What did we all do to recognize which key skill was lacking? And the answer? Nothing. Because I was always seen as this chap who had a happy family, who had plenty of friends, who was averagely bright, but really good at rugby. I was fine. So nobody ever looked about where we could build more strength in terms of these skills. I believe absolutely clearly that if parents and school can get their children, their students, to get 4s and 5s on each of the 5 sectors by the time they leave school, we will be equipping them better to deal with the slings and arrows that they're going to face in life than any number of IB points. Don't underestimate, I'm sure you don't, I'm sure you nag your children and your students about getting enough sleep. When I talked to grades 8 and 9 today, I asked them how many of them had had less than 8 hours sleep last night. I wonder what you think the response was. Most put their hands up. No, I didn't have that. And I pointed out that the professor of circadian rhythms, of sleep, had suggested that an adolescent needs between 8 and 9 hours a night if their short-term memory is going to embed properly, and if they're going to be able to put into perspective their emotional experiences. Getting enough sleep is scientifically important, let alone diet, etc. But I'm sure you nag your children about those things. All behavior is communication. So think of your child or your student's behavior when it gets a bit loud, when it gets a bit silly, when it gets a bit angry, all those behaviors. What do you do with that behavior? My wife was working away on her computer recently. She's doing a master's in child and adolescent psychotherapy. And she said, oh, come over here, Dick, come over here, look at this. So I went over and I looked at the slides. 8 ways a child's anxiety shows up as something else. And I said, gosh, that makes me feel guilty. And she said, why? And I said, well, do you remember Patrick and Francesca and Matthew? 3 children at my school who were labelled as being extremely difficult, not very kind, not very pleasant children, young people. And I said, we disciplined them, we put them into all punishments and sanctions. I can now see that each of those 3 young people was anxious. And even now, 12 years later, I can see what they're anxious about. If only I'd stopped back then and tried to help them rather than punish them. Build connection. Now, when you hear from Steve shortly, he will talk about this word connection. And it is really, really important. Whether you're a teacher or a parent or a friend, we need to really think on how we build connection with others, how we earn somebody's trust so that we can then help them. And this all comes down to connecting with them in a certain way. You know that you can't solve all the problems that a young person might have. A broken home, a failed exam, a terminally ill grandparent. You can't solve those problems. But if you have a connection, you can help. You can really, really help. I'm going to play you a short film featuring...
In a therapeutic situation, therefore...
Whoops, I'm not going to play you quite yet. I'm going to play you a short film by Andrew Curran. Andrew Curran here is a neurobiologist. And he's going to talk in this film about dopamine. Dopamine being a chemical responsible for the health of the brain, both physiologically and emotionally. And why knowledge about how we can generate dopamine in somebody else can really help us help them.
In a therapeutic situation, therefore, where you're trying to support someone and help them feel capable and able of dealing with the situations and problems that they're trying to make sense of, dopamine is your critical friend. If you can produce dopamine in the right concentration, in the right places, you have maximized that person's ability to deal with whatever challenges or issues are facing them at that time. You are giving them the strength to move forward. What we now understand about dopamine and dopamine secretion is that 93% of dopamine secretion in the brain, 93%, is directly under the control of your limbic emotional brain. I think anyone who has any sense recognizes that if you have someone's heart, their minds will come with them. Now, for me as a neurobiologist, heart is not this thing pumping away in your chest. It's actually the limbic emotional brain, what we've just been talking about. Now, the limbic emotional brain is controlling 93% of dopamine secretion. So you need to engage with that if you're going to support and help that person. This comes down to the oldest algorithm in the book, which all of you there who have any experience of dealing and supporting people with emotional illness or emotional problems knows that if someone is in an environment where they feel understood, then that is good for their self-esteem. If those two things are true, then that's good for their self-confidence. And if those three things exist within that person, then they will feel emotionally engaged with the situation. And as I've already explained, if they feel emotionally engaged, it means their limbic emotional brain is fully connected with what's going on. And if that's the case, then you've optimized their dopamine secretion, you've maximized their ability to not only deal with the situation in the present, but also to learn or unlearn the things that they got wrong, the things that they got right, to give them strategies to move forward. And of course, what this comes down to is the oldest understanding of human behavior that there is. If somebody's in an environment or with someone where they feel genuine love, then their ability to deal with themselves and their lives is maximized. And this, of course, doesn't have to be some deep, profound Hollywood love. Just the sense of being understood, of your self-esteem and self-confidence being maximized, and of feeling safe, emotionally engaged in the environment you're in.
Okay. I wonder if your son, your daughter, your student, or you have helpful strategies for responding to those difficult times, those troublesome times, those pressures. I wonder whether you have given strategies that work for you to your students or your children, or do you wait for them to get there and then find out how they're going to deal with it themselves? I have to say that grades 8 and 9 today were pretty good. They had a pretty good understanding. They said exercise, sport, talking to somebody. But I wonder what strategies you use. So you've had a really awful day or a week where everything's gone wrong and you feel really stressed. What do you do? Tell me. Somebody tell me what you do to ease that stress. Is anybody going to tell me? Come on. I'm going to pick on you, Martin. Oh, thank you very much, Abdullah. Music. Does anybody listen to music? Does it ever help you with your mood? Of course it does. What else do you do? Yeah. Just shout out, because I can't hear, my ears don't work. Excellent. And so on and so forth. I hope we've all got strategies. But we need to give them to our young people. We've all got one of these, a stress bucket. It's a container that lives in our brain, and it's there to absorb everything that causes us stress or anxiety, to stop that stuff flooding through the rest of our system. I wonder what you've got in your stress bucket this evening. Perhaps you had a row with your partner this morning. Perhaps work hasn't gone at all well today. Perhaps your car broke down on the way here. Perhaps, all those things. What's in your stress bucket? And where is the level? And if it's reaching the top, what are you going to do? you've got your helpful coping strategies, and they're in the form of this little tap. But of course, there are plenty of unhelpful coping strategies, and you will know what they are. Things that young people or older people do to help forget whatever it is that's bothering them. All of those things can basically increase the level in our stress bucket. They might take away the immediate pain of it, but ultimately they will all increase the level. And if it overflows, that's dangerous. That's emotional snapping, loss of control over emotion, and possibly behavior. But we open the tap by using helpful coping strategies. But we do have to be proactive. And I believe we need to be proactive in all of this. And that's one thing that I've seen and understand is going on at King Faisal School, is there is a degree of proactivity. What do we want to achieve, and how are we going to achieve it? Not waiting to see what happens and then reacting to it. Being proactive. Social media. Well, I'm quite sure that as parents, you do not love social media. I do not love social media. I can't be doing it. I've already been in I've always felt under the marketing team, wherever they are, that in some trouble that I don't do social media. You know the dangers of social media. Of course you do. But if you demonize it and threaten and worry about it all the time with your children, they will stop listening. And that's the worst thing that can happen. We need to learn what they are doing, and we need to understand not just what they're doing, but why they're doing it. That's the way we can keep them safe. Finally, could you put your hand up, please, if you've got this book? The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse by Charlie Mackesy. Anybody got it? No. Oh, well done over there. Excellent. Well, you can buy it off Amazon for, well, I don't know what £9.99 is in your currency, but it is the most amazing, gentle book full of wisdom. Wisdom like this. What do we do when our hearts hurt? Asked the boy. We wrap them with friendship, shared tears and time, till they wake hopeful and happy again. It is the most beautiful book. My belief, when I saw this particular page in the book, which I was looking through the other day, I thought that is what King Faisal School wants for its students. It wants to wrap them in kindness and friendship. Yes, high expectations. Yes, being quite demanding, but fundamentally being kind to them. And all the stuff I think you're going to hear from Steve shortly corroborates just that message. And I believe that King Faisal School and its mission statement, this incidentally is far more sophisticated and impressive than any development plan that I ever managed to put together. But the fact of the matter is that I think the school's got every chance of doing this, because they're being proactive. Anybody recognize this guy? Yes, who's this? Dumbledore. Exactly. Now, I'm sure you all know Dumbledore, but Dumbledore was quite a wise man, and he had this to say. He said, happiness can always be found, even in the darkest of times, if only one remembers to turn on the light. And I think, from what I've seen, the people I've met and things I've come across at King Faisal School, both in writing and in person, will mean that the lights go on very, very frequently. And whether you're a parent or a teacher, I think that is something to be really proud of. So, generally speaking, life is not about sitting there feeling miserable and waiting for the storm to pass. Life has got to be about getting on with it, knowing that all storms pass. When my son died, I felt consumed by blackness, by this terrible, black, impenetrable storm. And I thought, this is never going to go. This is never going to disappear. I'm always going to be miserable. I'm always going to be unhappy. It's always going to be dark. But very quickly, really, a couple of very close friends, family members, a complete stranger, just pierced that blackness with the tiniest shard of light. And in time, the sun pierced that little shaft of light and expanded it, and the sun blew away the clouds of that storm. So my life, despite having been through a tough time, my life's now great. I'm enjoying the sun. In fact, it's a bit too sunshiny over here, but I enjoy the sunshine. I enjoy life. And every one of us needs to help our children see that all storms pass and that we can get through just about anything. Thank you for listening. I think you're going to really enjoy Steve, who is appearing now. You'll not be surprised that Steve is quite tall. You might have noticed.
There you go. All right. Hey, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story, sharing your knowledge. I appreciate you. Let's give another hand for Dick Moore, everyone. Please. All right. Oh, Dick, you have the clicker. We got to get the clicker. Oh, you got to give it to me, Dick. You got to give it to me. $10. There you go. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. 6'7", it's about 2 meters. No, I'm not a professional basketball player. Yes, I can play basketball. No, I will not do it for you. Yes, I can dunk the ball. No, I will not do that for you. Yes, I played basketball in high school. No, I did not play basketball in college. Yes, I enjoyed the sport. And no, I do not know any professional basketball players, okay? Those are the questions I get everywhere I go, no matter who I see. Why? I'm a walking stereotype. 6'7", black man, bald head, gotta be a ball player, right? It's okay, you can laugh at it, it's okay. Everywhere that I go, everyone always says, do you play basketball? Do you play basketball? Do you play basketball? My answer is no, I'm really into miniature golf. That's what I do. But seriously, my name is Steve, obviously. I do stand tall. It all works together, thus the reason why you see the name up there, Stand Tall Steve. Now, wherever I go to speak, whoever it is that I talk to, I always take a few minutes on the front end of my speech and I do a little public service announcement for the world of tall people. I'm sure you have seen us wandering around amongst you. You may have seen us on television. And you may have had some questions about tall people, but you've just never asked. So if you can bear with me and I'll just do a little intro about the world of tall people, because there's things that are absolutely wonderful about being tall and there's some not so great things about being tall. Let's go over to things that are not so great about being tall. One thing not so great about being tall? Cars. Yeah, cars. Yeah, exactly. You don't think about it. You can hop in and out of any kind of car very easily. Doesn't work that way in my world. Those little smart cars, those little Fiat things, yeah, those are cute. No, they're terrible little death traps. I hate those things. I got to fold up like origami in order to fit inside of them. So cars don't work. Another thing not so great about being tall? Airplanes. Yeah, you think you have no legroom in an airplane? I have no legroom in an airplane. Every time I get on the plane, I immediately start to pray. And I don't pray that the plane stays in the air. I pray, please don't lean the seat back. Please don't lean the seat back. And what do they do every time? Lean the seat back, right into my knees. Right? And the headrest, you know the headrest that's nice and comfortable for you? Yeah, that's nice. That's in the middle of my back, all right? So I have it's in my back, I have no leg room, the flight attendant, are you comfortable? Does it look like I'm comfortable? I just got off the no-fly list. It's okay, we made it work. Anyway, so we have cars, we have airplanes, clothing, can't find clothing anywhere, shoes, doorways, ceiling fans, shower heads, spider webs, these are all major issues in the world of tall people. You think I'm joking about the spider webs? Go on a hike with a tall friend. It's like, oh, the spider, where is it? It's always in my head. So those are the things that are not so good about being tall. Now, on the other hand, there's some things that are absolutely fabulous and wonderful about being tall. Number one thing with me, random autographs. People think I'm famous. It happens all the time. They think I'm a ball player, and I get it. Wherever I go, they're constantly taking pictures of me. They want my autograph. They come up to me and they ask me. It happens everywhere, all the time. Guess where it happens the most? Who can guess where it happens the most? What do you think? Airports, yes. What is with airports? It's like I'm a walking display. I mean, people just walk right up. They feel empowered to come right up to me. I'm trying to get to my gate. No, stay there. Take a picture. How you doing? It's insane. So people think I'm famous. It's actually not that bad. Also, I can get all the stuff off the top of the shelves in the grocery store. Some of y'all can't do that, right? And when I'm in the store, I make sure you little people aren't down the aisle, because what are you going to do? Ask for help, exactly. And I'm a nice person. I help everybody. Nobody's afraid of me when they want to get that rice off the top shelf. I know that. So I have a perfect view at a concert or in a crowd every time. So there you go. There's your public service announcement for the world of tall people. Now you know. Well, here's the thing, gang. When I was growing up, to become a tall person, I hated it. I didn't like it. I actually went out of my way to fight it. 8th grade was the year that everything went nuts for me. Dick was up here talking about when you go through puberty and the changes that happen. Well, 8th grade was it for me. At the beginning of 8th grade, I was 5'8". That's 1.7 or so, 7.5 meters or so. At the end of 8th grade, I was 6'3". 5'8" to 6'3", about that much. Now, on average, when boys go through their puberty and they do that growth spurt, they grow maybe about this much in a year. I grew this much. And this isn't one calendar year. This is one school year. It hurt. You want to talk about pain? I had them. I was 13 years old. I wore a US size 13 shoe. You want to see something funny? Watch me go up some steps. I was constantly tripping over my own 2 feet. My feet hurt, my ankles hurt, my knees hurt, my back. Oh, my back hurts like crazy. My arms hurt. I hated becoming a tall person. On top of growing so quickly, tripping over my feet, knees hurt, legs hurt, back hurt, arms hurt, I also started to have something else, something that Dick talked about. I started to get anxiety attacks, specifically at night. Now, why was I getting anxiety attacks at nighttime? I had anxiety attacks at night because I knew when I would go to sleep, that's when I would wake up with the most pain, because that's when you grow. You grow at nighttime. And I knew I wasn't going to make it through the night. I would wake up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times at night from pain. And so I started getting anxiety attacks at night. So here I am, 13 years old, big feet, ankles hurt, knees hurt, back hurt, arms hurt, anxiety at night. And then something else started to happen. I started to get chest pains. And not like little chest pains, severe chest pains. It would come out of nowhere. I'm walking along in the hallways of school, and all of a sudden, boom, it would hit. It felt like I was having a heart attack. Sometimes it would hurt so bad I would fall to the ground in pain. It would last 5, 10, maybe 15 seconds. Teachers would come. Nurse would come. They'd hold me in the nurse's office for observation, call my parents. I hated becoming a tall person. Now, because the chest pains happened once, twice, 3 times a day, eventually my parents took me to a specialized doctor. They wanted to find out what was going on. So they took me to the specialized children's doctor, and they did some scans, they did, blood work, they checked out growth plates and things. But eventually what they did is they put something called a Holter monitor on me. Now, if you don't know what a Holter monitor is, it's these little sticky tabs they put all over your chest, and then these wires from these tabs, they go down into a bag that measures your heart throughout the day. So here I am in 8th grade, big feet, ankles, legs, back, arm hurts, anxiety at night, chest pains, and I'm carrying what looks like a lady's purse. Because that's what it looked like, a big old brown purse, because that's where the mechanism was in it that measured the heart. Now, I don't know about you, but back in the early 80s, it was not cool for an 8th grade boy to walk around with a lady's purse. So on top of it, I got made fun of a lot. I couldn't even blame him. I would have made fun of myself too. I hated becoming a tall person. So what do we have? We have big feet, ankles, legs, back, arms hurt, anxiety at night, chest pains, carrying a purse, and then I did something else. I started to slouch, hunch over. I didn't stand straight. Anyone ever see someone who doesn't stand up straight? They hunch over, they don't have pride in themselves. That was me. And I hunched over for specifically 2 reasons. One, I didn't like the fact that I was standing out from everyone else around me. I wanted to blend in. And the other reason why is because I actually felt bad for other people who I stood next to, because I felt like I was towering over them. And if I bent over, I could blend in with everyone else around me. I hated becoming a tall person. I hated everything about it. Well, one day I'm walking home from school. Now, I grew up in America, New Jersey, And where I grew up in southern New Jersey, it was a walking town. Everybody walked. So I'm walking home from school one day with a friend of mine. Her name was Danielle. Danielle lived on 7th Street. I lived over on 9th Street. So as we're walking along, Danielle, we get to 7th Street. I can see her house right ahead. She says, "Steve, stop." I said, "Stop, why?" She said, "Just stay there." I'm like, "All right." She walked around behind me. I'm like, "What are you doing?" She said, "Just stay there." I'm like, "Okay, fine." When she stood behind me, she took one hand, she put it on my shoulder. She took her other hand, she balled it up into a fist, and punched me in the middle of my back. I was like, "Girl, what is wrong?" I wasn't a good fighter. I was like, "Girl, what is wrong with you? What are you doing?" After punching me in the back. Now, obviously, when she held my shoulder, punched me in the back, I arched my back, I stood up straight. She spun me around, she looked me in the eyes, she said, "Steve, you're a tall person. Stop trying to be small and stand tall." And that's when it clicked. That's when I realized I wasn't being the person I was meant to be. Here I am hunching over. Now, obviously, when she did that, I stood up straight, and everything became clear the moment that she did that. Now, here I am trying to fight being tall, but yet my family's tall. My father's 6'6", my brother's 6'6", my mother's 5'9", my sister was 5'10", my grandfather was 6'10". Like, I'm going to be tall, right? You can tell how tall you're going to be by looking at your family. You can kind of get a gauge. And here I am trying to fight it. So when I was walking home from 7th Street to 9th Street, I did a lot of thinking. It's one of those moments in life where you remember it so well. You're doing that deep thinking. I remember every moment, every step. It's one of those moments. I'm walking home from 7th Street to 9th Street, and I'm thinking about the kind of student and person I was in school, specifically. Now let me explain the kind of kid I was in school. I was a kid that loved school. I loved everything about school. To me, school was a social mecca of all kids my age who came together every day and you taught me stuff. Are you kidding me? I loved it. I thought it was great. I loved my teachers. I loved the events. I loved the things we did. And I was in everything. I was in student government. I was class president. I was in student government. I was in a chess club. I was in a debate club. I was in a music club. I was in the art. I was in a bunch of different clubs and activities. And then I wasn't just in it. I was president, vice president. And I realized something walking home from 7th Street to 9th Street, that I'm a leader. And leaders are not supposed to blend in. Leaders are supposed to stand tall. They're supposed to stand out. That's what makes them a leader. From that moment, I changed the way that I walked, the way that I interacted, the way that I talked, and my thought process. And guess what happened? The anxiety at night, gone. The hunching over, gone. The chest pains, gone. It's about your mindset. That's what makes you a leader. That's what sets you apart from others. It doesn't matter if you're 4'3" or 7'8". You can stand tall in everything that you do. Now, I've come to realize that specifically education is one of the most noble professions on earth. It really is. Every adult in a school is an educator because the students are watching everything that you do and everything that you don't do. And I believe that educators are leaders, and students can become leaders. And many of you are leaders. At certain moments in your life, that's are times that you might need to step up and do things. And I've learned that there's 3 things specifically that directly connect to the world of tall people and leadership. Number one thing about tall people is, we don't blend in. We don't blend in. If you look into a crowd, you can find the tall people right away, right? We pop out. You can't miss us. Same thing with leaders and educators. It's not your job to blend in. It's your job to stand out. One of the things that bothers me so much is when I talk to an educator and somebody say, "Oh, I'm just a teacher." No, you're not just a teacher. You're a leader of children. You're not supposed to blend in. You're supposed to stand out. Second thing about the world of tall people, leadership, and education is tall people, we have a different view of the world. We see the world completely different. We see over the crowd. Real quick, raise of hands, if you may. How many people have ever been in a busy, big crowd with a tall friend? Anybody? Yes. What do? You push your tall friend to the front, you grab their hand over their shoulder, and you say, "Go," right? Why? Because they know how to get through that. They have a different view. They can see where the end game is. They can see the goal. They can see how to move through the crowd. Same thing with leaders and educators. You have the vision. You see where the students need to be. You see where the organization needs to be. You see where you need to move to, and they're holding on and you're moving them through that crowd. Now here's the thing. When that tall friend is taking you through the crowd, is it ever a straight shot? No. If it was, they go this way, they go that way, they go this way, they go that way. Oh, you guys all right back there? Hey, we got it. The door is almost up here. Same thing with leadership and education. It's never a straight shot. If it was a straight shot, they wouldn't need you. You have to go this way, that way, all the different ways, but you keep your eye on that vision. Third thing about the world of tall people, leadership and education, is tall people, we don't fit. As I said in the beginning, we don't fit. We don't fit in doorways, cars, ceiling fans, shower heads, airplanes. There's all these things we don't fit in. But here's the thing. Even though we don't fit, do we give up? Do we give up? Just like many of you, I travel all around the world, all the time, to many different places to talk to them about leadership, culture, climate, and idea development. And there are times that I have to get into tiny little planes. I do. I literally have to walk on my hands and knees in order to get to my seat. But I don't look at the plane and say, plane's kind of small. You know what? I'm not going to go. Too uncomfortable. No, suck it up, Buttercup. Let's go. It's not going to be easy. Is it uncomfortable? Yes. Sometimes that's what leadership is. Sometimes that's what education is. It's uncomfortable, but suck it up. Let's go. That's a part of the deal. That's my stand tall philosophy as it relates to leadership, education, and life. Now, the specific title of the talk that I have today is called Standing Tall Through It All. Standing tall through it all, because we're going to have to go through some things. This isn't easy. There are a lot of things that we need to go through in order to have a clear understanding of how to develop those relationships, how to develop a culture and climate that allows for the best for us to come out within education and within yourself. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus in on specific things that you can do to maximize your leadership, maximize your school, maximize your family, and your life for the better. And I'm hoping to change your mindset. Are we all ready to make this happen? We're ready to go? Oh, all two of us. Okay, we're going to do great. All right, I got to give some feedback. You got to say, yeah, there we go. Awesome. Let's go. Let's dive into this, guys. So the first thing that I really want to talk about as it relates to standing tall through it all is communication. Now, I get it. I understand. A lot of times, specifically when I speak in the world of education, teachers and other educators and people in status are like, Steve, really, we get it. Listen more, talk less. I understand communication. But if it's okay with you, I'd like to take this in a little different angle, if I may. Now, I mentioned before that when I was growing up in 8th grade specifically, I grew from 5'8" to 6'3". Big feet, knees, leg back, arms hurt, anxiety at night, chest pains, Holter monitor, woman's purse looking thing hunched over. It was a messed up year for me. On top of all of that, there was one more thing that happened that I didn't tell you about. My voice was messed up. I'm not talking a little messed up. I like to say that my voice was tore up from the flow up. I mean, it was bad. So for a large part of 8th grade, I did whatever I could not to talk. Now, one day, I'm in social studies class, my social studies history class, with my teacher, Mr. Bond. Let me give you an image of Mr. Bond. Mr. Bond was a very tall and formal man. He would walk slowly, and he would speak slowly. He looked like, if you know what Abraham Lincoln looks like, he looked like him going bald with a mustache. That's what he looked like. Now, Mr. Bond was an old school teacher. Everyone sat in perfectly straight rows, alphabetical, every single class. You do not misbehave in Mr. Bond's class. Did anybody out there have some teachers similar to a Mr. Bond at one point in your life? Oh, I see a lot of hands and head nods. You know what I'm talking about. That was Mr. Bond. So one day I'm in his class, and I sit in the very front row right by the door. My last name was B. There were no A's, right by the front door. One day Mr. Bond says, Mr. Bolar, please read the next paragraph. Now remember, my voice was toe up from the flow up. There you go, flow. Don't be proper, not floor up, flow up. You got to put some jazz into it. That means it's really bad, all right? So what do? I start talking to myself. I have my inner dialogue. This man is crazy if he thinks that I'm going to talk in front of this class with my voice toe up from the Flow up? No, that's not happening. No, I'm not saying anything today. Mr. Bolar, did you hear me? Please read the next paragraph. I don't care what that guy says. I am not going to embarrass myself with my voice toe up from the... Nope. I'm not even going to look at him. I'm just going to look over here. Mr. Bolar, either you read the next paragraph or you'll be after school with me. All right, we got a problem now. Yeah, I just got off punishment with my dad. If my dad finds out about this, he's going to kill me. Oh, okay, all right. I can't deal with that. Just so y'all understand, my father's old school from West Virginia, big 6'6" guy, a minister. He will kill me, all right? We all know what that's like. I can't say what he's going to do, but we all know what he's going to do. Inner dialogue. Okay, all right. This paragraph is not that long. If I clear my throat, I could do this. Come on, Steve. You got this. Come on, man. You got it. Okay, here we go. Now, mind you, this happens in seconds. Within seconds in your head. You know how it goes. So I pick up my book, clear my throat. Today, Mr. Bolar. Here we go. Okay, come on, Steve. You got it. And for his friend, I'm again. I read the entire paragraph. Now, it wasn't that bad, but to me, it was that bad. I sat there with my head down. Oh, my life is over. I can't believe that. Oh, my purse is beeping. Oh, gosh, no. Now, believe it or not, it was silent in that classroom. Nobody laughed. I knew if I turned around and looked at everyone, they would look at me just like this. Now, Mr. Bond, being the good teacher that he was, continued on as if nothing happened. Now, I wasn't too worried about the ladies in the classroom. I wasn't too worried about most of the fellas in the classroom. I was actually worried about one person, Marcus. Marcus sat in the last row, and he was the biggest bully in school. Marcus stood 4 foot nothing, but he was the biggest bully in school. You can picture him in your mind right now, can't you? You can see, just imagine he has like a Michael Jackson Jerry curl. It was the 80s, y'all, all right? It was the 80s. So immediately, what do? I start again. Oh my gosh, Marcus is back there. Oh, he's going to jump on a chair and then jump on me or make fun of me. I'm done. He's going to just ruin my life. I'm done. I'm so done. So I sat there and I put my head down for the remainder of class. I said nothing. Mr. Bond continued on as if nothing happened. At the end of class, everybody leaves. I'm still at my desk. Mr. Bond calls me over. Mr. Bolar, please come here. I get up, I go over. Yes, Mr. Bond. Why didn't you tell me you had this problem? How was I supposed to tell you? Well, just let me know when it's over. Okay. I turn to leave, and who is standing right outside of the door against the lockers? Marcus. 100% true story. So I begin again. What am I going to do? Marcus is there. I don't want to run back to Mr. Bond. Mr. Bond, help me. Wait a second. I'm like 5'10" right now. I could take him. I could do this. So I get my things off the desk. I stand in the doorway. All right, Marcus, what do you want, man? What? Marcus does this, pointing to the stairwell. And we all know the beatdown takes place in the stairwell. So Marcus does this. I do this. I just cracked myself up a little there. Okay, so Marcus is back and forth, back and forth. So eventually my friend Jason, who I have not seen today, he comes over and he stands next to Marcus. Now you have to understand, Jason is a bigger wimp. He's more of a scaredy cat than I am. But I'm doing the math. 2 scaredy cats, 1 bully, 4 foot, we got this. So I step in the hallway. All right, man, what's going on, man? What you want, Marcus? He doesn't say a word. Him and Marcus, they walk to the stairwell. We go all the way to the bottom of the stairwell. We're down in the bottom of the stairwell. You know, back in the cut of the stairwell that everybody know about but nobody know about? We're back up in there. Marcus is there. Jason is there. I'm there. Marcus looks around and he says these exact words. I'm glad he picked you and he didn't pick me. His voice is just as messed up as mine. And Jason's like, I heard all about it. We're like 3 donkeys down the bottom of the stairwell. True story. The cool thing is the 3 of us, we're still friends to this day. The 3 of us are still, well, Facebook friends, but friends. You know what I'm saying. I like his stuff, he likes mine. Anyway, the whole point of the story was not necessarily about the communication I had with Mr. Bond, with the class, with Marcus. It was about the communication I had with myself. If we're going to talk about standing tall through it all, we're going to talk about changing schools, we're going to talk about changing your life, changing the environment, it all begins with the communication you have with yourself. So often we have negative self-talk. We're the first ones to put ourselves down when things don't go right. Things aren't right. Did you think about, oh, I didn't do that right. Oh my goodness, what am I thinking? This isn't going to happen to me. That's one of the first things what Dick was talking about when it deals with depression and anxiety. It's the conversations that are happening with yourself. That's the beginning of these things. You have to be purposeful in the response and the things that you're going to say on a regular basis. Purposeful, because it's natural to go to the negative immediately. We always tell our students to advocate for yourself, say positive things, but yet we're the one of the first ones to put our own self down and not do what's necessary to move our own self forward. And when I go to schools, I ask these questions of teachers all the time. I ask them, what do you say to yourself when you get to work? How was your weekend? Not long enough. Ugh. Right? We say these things. Negative things. What do you say when your students enter the classroom? Oh, he's here today. Oh, gosh. That's the biggest laugh I get, really? Because he's never absent, right? Or you're saying, you know what? He's here today. I just got to make it 2% better. She's here today. I just got to make it 2% better. Because if you made every day 2% better, how much better would you be at the end of the year? What do you say to yourself when your students leave the classroom? Oh, thank goodness that's over with. Oh, whoo. I wish I could get an hour of my life back. Or you're saying, you know what, hold on, I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Oh, it's going to be wonderful. We got this. Today was a tough one, but we got it. Say the positive things. What do we say when we leave work? Let me beat the kids. We don't think about these things. We just say them. That's the beginning stages of standing tall through it all. That's the beginning stages of leadership. Because ultimately, what do we want? We want a positive culture and climate. We want an environment that is welcoming, conducive to learning. But here's the thing. We talk about culture and climate all the time, don't we? We throw those words out there. We want a good culture and climate. We want an environment that's good. But do we really know what climate and culture really is? What is climate? What is culture? So what we're going to do now is we're going to take some learning. I'm going to take you to school, we're going to slow things down, and we're going to go into deep learning. Now, the great thing is I've been here all week, I've been working with King Faisal School, and they've gone through this. I've explained this on many different occasions, but I'm going to dig in deep with all of you so that you have a deep understanding of what climate and culture really is. And once you have a clear understanding of what climate and culture really is, then the mindset starts to shift, and I'm going to show you what you can do to create the climate and culture that we're talking about. Here's the diagram. This is the diagram that talks about climate and culture. Now, right in the middle of this diagram is the word respect and value. That is the anchor of climate and culture. I go to schools around the world and I ask them all the time, if I was to ask everyone in your school what you respect and value, would everyone say the same thing? And a lot of times they would say no. There might be some positive words that are similar, but would everyone say the same thing as what you respect and value? Let's take it a little bit different. We have a lot of parents that are in the audience right now. If we were to talk to every one of your children and your spouse and say, what is it that you respect and value? Would everyone say the same thing? So that's the beginning stages. Find out what it is that we respect and value. Because let's stay on the parent side. Isn't that the number one thing that we want more than anything? We know that when the children walk out that door, what do we want? We want them to uphold what we respect and value when we're not there. Ask them what we respect and value and see if it's the same exact thing. That's the beginning stages. So let's say, for the sake of us being together here today, let's say that we are the Stand Tall Middle School, and we say that we respect and value teamwork, accountability, and integrity. We're going to pick those 3 words. Easy words because you know what they mean, but yet they're powerful. Teamwork, working together, integrity, which is important, and then accountability, doing what's right when you're expected. Now from there, let's talk about climate. Now climate in this diagram, is represented by the wavy blue line. Now let me define climate. Climate is the emotional state people feel when they enter a space. The emotional state people feel when they enter a space. When you walk into a space, you feel a certain way. And it's blue, this line is wavy blue because climate fluctuates. It changes month to month, week to week, sometimes minute to minute, right? The climate at the beginning of the school year is different than the climate before winter break. Yes? Yes. The climate when you get back from winter break is different than the climate before exams. Yes? Yes. It fluctuates. It changes. You can walk into one classroom, kids are quiet, heads down, focused, taking a test. You walk in the door, it feels negative. It feels tense, like, oh, this is tough. This is tense in here. You can walk out of that classroom, go right next door, walk into the next classroom, kids are quiet, head down, taking a test. It feels happy in here. It feels like Disney. Climate, the emotional state you feel when you enter a space. And it fluctuates. Sometimes it's close to what you respect and value, and sometimes it's not. Let's talk about culture. Let's define culture. Culture, to be honest with you, is just a fancy word for traditions. That's what culture really is. Traditions. What do you traditionally do? That creates culture. Over time, things happen a certain way, and that becomes the culture. And there's 2 different types of culture, represented by the top gray line and the bottom gray line. There's your operational culture and your behavioral culture. Your operational culture, bottom gray line, is how you operate. What do you do? How do students walk on campus? How do they get to class? How do you schedule? How do you hold a meeting? How do you start your class? How do you end your class? How do they leave? All the operations within the school. How did the groundskeeper keep up the grounds? I mean, all the operations, not only in your school, also within your family. Think about that. What are the operations? How do we do what we do? Second type of culture is the top line, which is your behavioral culture. Again, traditionally, how do people behave? Better yet, how do people talk to each other? Better yet, what is tolerated? How do students talk to students? How do students talk to teachers? How do teachers talk to students? How do students talk to administrators? How do administrators talk to students? How do parents talk to teachers? How do teachers talk to parents? How do people talk to each other? Is it with respect? Is it rude? Is it yelling? Is it harsh? Is it nice? Is it not? What is allowed? How far is it allowed to go? Because I'll be honest with you, that's the nature of humans. We will go as far as we possibly can. How far is it allowed to go? That is your behavioral culture. Now, we have all the parts, all right? What you say we respect and value, teamwork, accountability, and integrity. We have our climate, it fluctuates, emotional feeling that we feel, operational culture, how we operate regularly, traditionally, behavioral culture, traditional behaviors. Here's the thing, gang. We know that students and staff do better when they feel good, right? We're emotional creatures. So when our emotions are good, they do better. You get more out of people when that happens. So therefore, in schools, what do? We do things in order to improve the emotional climate in a school. And we do fun things. We have a spirit week. We have a dress-up day. We have a fun event. Oh, let's have an assembly. Let's do some certain things. Please understand, all of those things are good. But those things will not sustain a systemic, long-term positive climate in a school district, or in a classroom, or in a home. The only way to sustain a systemic, long-term, positive climate is to work on the what? The culture. You have to make sure that the behavioral culture and the operational culture are in alignment with what? What you respect and value. And when you're holding people accountable to what the behavior and the operational culture is to what you respect and value, those lines move closer together. Those lines move closer together. And when they move closer together, what happens to the climate? It levels out. It levels out. You don't have these big swells everywhere when you have it back here. Oh, what are we doing? We don't even know what we're doing down here. You know what? This meeting didn't even need to happen. Why are we even meeting? Oh, the students are saying whatever. Did you hear what the teachers are talking about now? We're going to hold this accountable to teamwork, accountability, and integrity. Our operations are going to be in alignment with teamwork, accountability, and integrity. We're going to make sure that we continue on with teamwork, accountability, and integrity. Now this is what you got as it relates to climate and culture. Now understand, climate, it's still wavy. The blue line is still wavy. People are people, emotions are emotions. But you don't have those swells. Does this make sense? Give me a thumbs up if this makes sense. Look at all that. Yes, this makes sense. This is climate and culture. This is totally possible. This is totally doable. It's doable in schools, it's doable in organizations, it's doable in your family. Think about your family. What do you respect and value? Right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the behaviors of our children and myself, as the father or the mother of the family, are in alignment with what we respect and value. And we're going to make sure that we operate as a unit, as a family group, so that it goes connected. And then all of a sudden, what? We got a really happy family here. Imagine that. This works. This works. So the question comes into play, how do we make this real? I don't know about you, but I've been to a lot of speakers, I've been to a lot of professional developments and a lot of trainings, and people come up with lots of philosophy, but they don't tell you what to do. So I'm going to tell you what you can do in order to make this real. Excuse me. So there we go. We're going to jump into it. The number one thing that we can do as it relates to creating a climate and culture that is positive, you're able to stand tall through it all, is through recognition. Recognizing students and staff when they do what it is that you respect and value. So often in education, we are awesome at pointing out when they do it wrong. This isn't what we're about. Look what you're doing. Hey, get over here. This isn't it. Cut that out. We have a discipline policy. Now, don't get me wrong. I think discipline is necessary. You got to have consequences. We're good at pointing it out, but how often are we good at recognizing when they're doing the right thing? Now, here's my idea of recognition. When I say recognition, I'm not giving you anything. All right? I'm not giving you a sticker. I'm not giving you a certificate. I'm not giving you a trophy. I'm not giving you candy. I'm opening my mouth and saying something nice. I'm saying something nice. Dick was talking about those relationships, those connectivity that you need to have. Open your mouth and say nice things. It's amazing what you get from people when you do. I don't know anybody who gets a compliment and then does less. Now, I get it. There are some people that have a problem with recognition. They don't want to do it. It's not my thing. So we're going to talk about the reasons to not give recognition and then what you're going to do about it. Number one, I don't know how. I don't know how to do this recognition thing. I don't know what to do. Here's my answer to that. Ask. Just ask. If somebody does something well, which you respect and value, hey, what can I do to recognize you? That was awesome. Now, most of the time, they're going to say nothing. Don't worry about it. But the act of asking is recognition in itself. Number two, I don't have time. You know what I got going on right now? I got too much happening. Teachers say, oh, look what's on my schedule, what I got to do. I don't have time for recognition. Do you have enough time to whine, cry, moan, and complain about everything? If you have time to whine, cry, moan, and complain, you have enough time to say, way to go, good job, I'm proud of you, keep it up. People don't care about it. They don't care about this recognition thing. This isn't that big of a deal. What are you all hyped up over? That's easy. Look it up online. Number one reason why people give up. Study after study after study shows people give up not because of pay and money. They give up because they don't feel like they're recognized for the work that they do. Let's go a few more. It's not my job. It's not my job to do this recognition thing. That's not what I'm here to do. Is it your job to whine, cry, moan, and complain about everything? It is? Oh, please, let me see your contract. Section 4, line 3, complain about everything. Please continue. If it's not your job to whine, cry, moan, and complain, and you do it, it doesn't have to be your job to say, way to go, good job, I'm proud of you, keep it up, do it. Here's my favorite one, Why recognize people for just doing their job? It's their job. It's the kid's job to come to school and to learn. I'm not going to recognize them for what they're supposed to do. All right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have a big football game. We call it soccer, but it's football. I'll go with that, all right? Big football game. Okay, you clap for that. It's always a wise guy in the front row all the time. There's a football game. We're going to have a championship football game, all right? Championship game. Everybody yell out your favorite team. Say the team. 1, 2, 3. There you go. Those two teams are going to be playing. Championship game. We're going to pack the stands. I mean, the biggest stadium ever. Pack it out. Nobody cheer until the end. Sit silently the entire game. At the end of the game, bravo. Love what you did at the beginning there. That was fabulous. Does that make any sense? No, that ball moves to one side. Come on, let's go, baby. Yeah. That ball goes the wrong way. It's okay. Come on, let's go, rally. But wait a second. Isn't it the football player's job to play football? Isn't that his job? Why are we going to cheer for what it is he's supposed to do? We do it because we want to motivate him. We want to encourage him. We want to make sure he continues to do what it is that he's supposed to do. But in schools, what do? We don't say anything. We wait to the end of the year, the end of the marking period, the end of the semester, and then we have an awards ceremony. Bravo. Love what you did in the beginning there. That was fabulous. Doesn't make any sense. Now, don't get me wrong. I love a good awards ceremony. I do. But we should be cheering them along all along the way. Do you want them to continue to do what they're supposed to do? Recognize it. Open your mouth and say something nice. Last one here. It becomes meaningless if done too much. We're recognizing way too much. It's too much. Real quick, if we can have a raise of hands, please, from everyone, if you've been recognized way too much. No, bring it right on up here. Come on. Please stop telling me how awesome I am. Right? I got one wise guy over here. Seriously, though. As long as the recognition is genuine and it's connected to what you respect and value, I don't know how you can do it too much. Those are all the questions and statements you can have for all those naysayers out there. Here, I'm going to give you this thing. It's called daytime DJ voice, nighttime DJ voice, as it relates to how we talk to other people, specifically students. So let's talk about the DJ. Let's go with nighttime DJ. Listen to the radio. The guy on the radio, late night DJ. What does the very late night DJ sound like? Smooth, soft, mellow, right? Hey, y'all, this is Big Steve on the radio, y'all. Sit back, relax, listen to these smooth tunes as I take you through the cosmos, right? That's our nighttime DJ voice. Smooth, mellow, soft. Now, let's go with our daytime, or even better, morning. What does our morning radio DJ voice sound like? Excited, energetic, hyped up, over the top. Hey, how we doing this morning? Oh, it's going to be great. Oh, the traffic's kind of crazy out there. Guess what? It's hot again in Saudi Arabia. Imagine that. Oh, my goodness. Here we go, right? That's energetic, over the top, excited. So we have our two voices, right? Daytime, nighttime, mellow, smooth. Daytime, whoop, whoop, excited. Here's the thing. I think a lot of time in schools, specifically when we're talking to students, we're using the wrong voice. Student does something wrong, something that they're not supposed to do, that goes against what you respect and value. Hey, get over here. What are you doing? Cut that out. Didn't I tell you about this? That's your daytime DJ voice for something negative. Student does something right, something that you respect and value. Good job. Keep it up. No, that's backwards. Student does something negative, something you're not supposed to do. Hey, what are you doing? Cut that out. Get over here. We need to talk. Student does something you respect and value. Oh my gosh, that is awesome. Look at you go. That's the best. I don't care if it's pre-K to 12th grade. Kids love to see adults get hyped up. Why are they only seeing you get hyped up over negative things? Change the script on it. The only time you should use a daytime DJ voice for something negative is when you need to get their attention for safety reasons. Something's happening, you need to get their attention. Hey, get over here. Hey, what are you doing? Cut that out. You need to get their attention immediately, but then you bring it right down to the lowest emotional level. If adults in schools just flip that one little thing, I guarantee you things would change. Think about your immediate family. I get it. Kids get on your nerves. I got 3 of them. Woo! They will set you off. But when it's time to really get to the point of things, do you get a better response when you yell at them or when you show how disappointed you are in them? Think of the tone that you're saying. Hey, get over here. I'm disappointed in you. That's not what we do around here. That's not us. As opposed to, how many times do I got to tell you about this? Oh my goodness, you didn't. They've completely checked you out, tuned you out. Same thing with our students, especially our older students. You know how long this has been working for them? They're used to getting yelled at. They're used to that. All of a sudden we switch it up. You're going to get a different outcome. Guaranteed. Does this make sense? If this makes sense, give me a thumbs up. Thumbs up? Beautiful. Yes. That's what this is. So what else can we do to make it real? How else can we make this something real, consistent? And I think this really goes to the whole concept of having a compliance versus a commitment mindset. A compliance versus commitment. Now, in education, we are very compliance-driven. We need to be in compliance. There's rules, there's expectations, there's outlines that you need to have. And there's nothing wrong with compliance. Like when I hear the word compliance, these are the words I think of. Transparency, regulation, policies, rules, laws, standards, requirements. And we need to have them. Please don't get me wrong. We need to have these things. But to me, compliance is a lower level of accomplishment. It is the basics. This is just, I do this, check off the box, I'm good. But here's the thing. If we think of the word commitment, what other words come to mind when you hear the word commitment? When I hear the word commitment, I hear of this: incentives, forward thinking, engagement, morals, philosophy, making a difference, ethical, trust, respect, oath. Now, I don't know about you, but if someone's talking about my school, I'd rather have words like this than the other. And here's the thing: if you have people who are committed to what you respect and value, compliance will take care of itself. Compliance will take care of itself. You don't have to worry about compliance. Checking off the boxes and making sure all the rules and the things are done, that will happen. Now, I don't know how many of you have been around and visited schools. I know Mr. Martin, he says that he loves to go in and out of schools. I've been in and out of hundreds, and I mean maybe even thousands of schools. I've yet to see one school be outrageously successful just being compliant. Just being compliant. No school is ever that great of success just being compliant. You need to have people in there who are committed to what you respect and value, because when you're committed, you'll do whatever it takes. Especially when you've identified what you respect and value. Isn't that what we want in our families? We want our kids, our family, to be committed to what we respect and value. Because when they're committed to what you respect and value, when they walk out that door and they go out and about, you know that they're going to do the right thing. They'll make the right decisions. What else can we do to make this real? Let's get some more things of what we can do to make this culture climate, standing tall through it all, being the leader, real. Let's bring it home personally. What can you do specifically? I think it all revolves around integrity. Maximizing your integrity. Now let me explain integrity. Let me give a definition for integrity. Now I've heard people say integrity is what you say or do when no one else is looking. I completely disagree. Integrity is a set of beliefs, values, and actions other people can depend on. A set of beliefs, values, and actions other people can depend on. You have your beliefs, you have your values. You talked about that, what you respect and value. You have them. You act them out on a regular basis, and other people have seen it so much in you, they can depend on it. Does anybody know somebody who's always late? Anybody know somebody who's always late? Yes. Don't point at someone. Why are you pointing at someone about that? Somebody's like, yeah, right here. No, just joking. But there's a belief, value, and action that you can depend on, right? There's some people you just know. Oh, yeah, they're late. I can depend on that. That goes to their integrity. Now, when I was younger, when I was a little boy, I was 10 years old. My brother was 12. I had an older brother and I have a younger sister. I'm the middle child. But when I was 10 years old, my brother and I, he's 12, we had a paper route. We had a newspaper route. We would deliver newspapers in the neighborhood in the morning. So we had a little bit of money in our pocket. It was very important to my father that we had a job at an early age. So having a little money in our pocket, we always wanted to do stuff that we can go and spend our money. So my brother and I, one day, we went to my dad and we said, hey, Dad, can you take us to the mall? We wanted to go to the shopping mall. Now, where I lived, the shopping mall was about 1 hour away from the house. And my dad says, boys, I'm busy. I don't have time for this. And he's like, please, Dad, can you please take us to the mall? He's like, okay, fine. This Saturday, I can't take you, but the following Saturday, I promise to take you. You said promise. You promise? He says, I promise to take you, boys. Yes! So for the next week and a half, we went out, we delivered our papers, we collected all of our money, we made sure that we had our money ready. Saturday came, my dad came to the room, my brother and I shared a room. He opened the door. All right, boys, let's go. We're like, yes! We ran downstairs, we jumped in the minivan, and back in the day, we were one of the first people in town with a minivan. We thought we were cool. Like, we had wood on the side and everything. It was a goofy little minivan, but we were it. We hopped in the minivan, we were ready to go. Dad gets in there, turns the van on, off we go to the mall. About 5 miles outside, about 5 minutes, I guess, or so, outside of town, my dad starts grabbing his stomach. He's like, and we're like, yo, Dad, you good? You all right? You all right? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. About 10 minutes outside of town, my dad pulls the van over. He's sitting on the side of the road. He leans his seat back, and he's grabbing his stomach. He is in extreme pain. My brother and I, we're not old enough to drive. There's no such thing as a cell phone. We're just on the side of the road, and my dad is in immense pain. We didn't know what to do. So I'm like, Dad, are you okay? He says, just give me a minute. After some time, he says, I have to go home. Something's not right. He gets himself together. He turns the van around. We start heading home. We stop 3 more times on the side of the road before we finally get home. We get home, my brother and I, we run out of the van. We go in the house. Mom, something's wrong with Dad. Go check and see. She goes out. She checks on my dad. She comes back in. She grabs her bag. She says, stay here with your little sister. I'm taking him to the hospital. So she goes, she gets in the van, off they go to the hospital. About an hour and a half later, my mom calls the house. We answer, yes, your dad, he's going to surgery, he'll be okay. He apparently has these gallstones. He's passing gallstones. Now, I've never had that happen, but apparently it's very painful. He went into surgery, everything worked out fine, but we didn't go to the mall. It is what it is. About 4 weeks later, my dad comes to the room with my brother and I. He says, okay, boys, let's go. Where are we going? We're going to the mall. Really? Yes, I promise to take you to the mall. We're going to the mall. We're like, Dad, really? It's okay. He says, no, let's go. He says, no, Dad, really? He says, no, get up. No, what's wrong? We spent all of our money. Corner store, comic books, candy, we spent it all. It was all gone. My dad reached into his pocket. He took out some money. He gave it to each of us. He says, you keep a promise. Let's go. A set of beliefs, values, and then actions other people can depend on. That's integrity. Even when they don't think that they can depend on it, that's integrity. So you tell me this, if you have integrity, a set of beliefs, values, and actions other people can depend on a regular basis, does that increase the probability of people moving from a compliance mindset to a commitment mindset because you're a leader? Yes. So how do we protect our integrity? How do we make sure that our integrity is top-notch? Here's what we're going to do. Number one, keep your promises. You have a promise, you keep that promise. What are promises? Promises are your big events, big units, big situations, especially if you say the word, I promise. You do whatever you can to make it up. If something gets in the way, you make it up, just like my father did. Keep those promises. Number two, speak out for what you believe in. If there's something that's important to you, you need to say so, especially as it relates to what you respect and value. Say something. Remember, I said, the kids are listening to everything that you say and everything that you don't say. And if you're someone that doesn't talk about what you respect and value on a regular basis, then something's wrong. Let's bring it to the family. You're the leader of the family. You're the parents of the family. You should be talking about what you respect and value constantly, over and over and over and over again. I'm tired of repeating myself. No, I'm not. I'm going to repeat myself 1,000,000 times over about what it is respect and value. Same thing in the household, same thing in your school, same thing in your leadership. Number 3, be fair. Err on the side of fairness. When making decisions, find out what is fair. When you're looking at making a decision, what's the win-win? What's the most fair way? If you have to do discipline, what is the most fair discipline? And I'm going to take it even further. Not only are you going to be fair with your decisions with others, be fair to yourself. Are you one of those people that just says, just give it to me, I got it. It's easier if I just do it. Give it to me, I got it. And now you have all this on your shoulders, and you can't be your very best because you're the one taking on everything from everyone else. You give so much at school as an educator or as a person at your job, when you get home, you have nothing for your family. Be fair to yourself. Because remember, a set of beliefs, values, and actions other people can depend on. If they can depend on, oh, give it to her, she'll take it. So be fair to yourself and be fair to others. Number 4 is probably the most important one. Do what you say you're going to do. Do what you say you're going to do. Now, you're thinking, that's the same thing as your promises. No, remember, promises are your big events, big situations. Do what you say you're going to do, your daily tasks. You say you're going to be there at 2 o'clock, be there at 2 o'clock. You say you're going to follow up, follow up. You say you're going to call, call. You say you're going to email, email. You say you're going to check in, check in. Argue me this, okay? We're going to please argue me this. If you are always keeping your promises, you are forever speaking out for what you're believing in, you are continually fair to yourself and others, and you are always doing what you say you're going to do, where is your integrity? Way up here. Does this increase the probability of moving people from a compliance mindset to a commitment mindset? Does this increase the probability that you're going to have a better culture and climate in your school based on what you respect and value and in your household? Yes. You don't keep your promises. You don't speak out for what you believe in. You don't do what you say you're going to do. You're not fair, and you don't say what you're going to do, what you're going to do. Where's your integrity? Down here. It decreases that probability significantly. That's what this is all about, gang. That's how you make this real. Let's wrap this up, gang. The last thing that we need to do to make this real. And this goes directly to a lot of what my friend Dick Moore said as it relates to making those connections and relationships. It's all about relationships. Developing consistent, meaningful relationships. One of the things I do is I do a session, I do a training called Classroom Management That Works. And in that session, I talk about a healthy adult-child relationship. A healthy relationship. A healthy relationship is, I'm the adult, you're the child. Very clear. Am I friendly? Yes. But also understand that it's a fair, meaningful, positive relationship. And how do we make that happen? How do we develop these good, positive, great relationships? We have to be a little vulnerable. We have to share what's original to us. We all have the things that are original. We all have things that we have originality in each of us. Being a little vulnerable and sharing those original thoughts, original feelings, and such strengthens those opportunities to develop those positive, healthy relationships. So in closing of this, I'm going to hopefully develop a relationship with all of you, because I'm going to share what's original to me with you. All right? So let me explain to you one thing that I love, one of my hobbies. One of the things that I simply adore is I love barbecue. I am a barbecue nut. I love cooking outside. I think it's just wonderful. I have 12 barbecue grills at my house. Yes, 12. I'm joking, like this is my backyard, y'all. I'm dead serious. I cook on multiple different, this is even everything that I have. I got my Weber, no, that's not a Weber, that's my Blackstone grill top, offset stick burner, water smoker, direct grill, got my green egg over here, gas grill, you name it, I have it. I love it. I do competition barbecue. I go out and I compete with others on it. And you know what really got me excited? My new pizza oven. That gets me dancing. I love stuff like that. You think I'm joking? I can geek out on barbecue for hours at a time. That's original to me. And that allows me to help develop relationships with others. All right, now something else that's original to me is I love costumes. Meaning I love dressing up as somebody else. Like, in the U.S., they have the Halloween where we dress up. That's my jam. I used to do it all. When I was a building principal, I would dress up on random days for no reason whatsoever. I mean, it would be a normal day to see me just wander around the school looking like this. If things were quiet, I'd go to my secretary. I said, I think I want to be a farmer. I'm going to put on my wig. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, hey, how y'all doing? I mean, it's weird, but I love it. That's my thing. My whole family gets into it. My family goes into it. We go to Comic Cons. We go to comic book conventions. We dress up all kind of ways. My daughter does it. My son. I make a great Nick Fury. I don't care what you say. Black man, bald head, eye patch, I win. I win. I win every time, right? It's fun for me. Sometimes I have to, in my school, I even brought it to my school for other people. What we did is at the end of each marking period, we would have what's called an academic pep rally. We would bring all the kids into the big gymnasium and we would celebrate success. And every time we would have a pep rally, I would pick a theme. And I would tell all the kids, come to school dressed in that theme. So one of the themes we had was pirates. So everybody showed up to school in pirates. And I mean everybody. That lady behind me, that's my assistant principal. We all did it. We had a great time. We had no discipline issues whatsoever. Sometimes I have to show my true identity, Mr. Incredible. There you go, Mr. Incredible. Again, we had another rally event for the kids, and it was a superhero one. Kids came to school, superhero, all day. No discipline issues. Kids still took tests, they still learned. Other thing I like is humor, obviously. I love humor, I like laughing, I love making other people laugh. So at the school district where I was, they had my superintendent said to all of the different schools that were in the district that she wanted for every leader in the school to put a photo in the front of the building of who the leader was, the principal, the vice principal, the assistant, the supervisors. She wanted pictures in the front of the building so when anybody came to the building, they would know who the leaders are. This was my picture. For 8 years, that was my picture. Didn't change it at all. Nope. Every time. You should see the parents come in the first time. They would walk in the door. My vice principal was doing a dance. The other one had a rubber chicken. My supervisor had Disney ears. And I know what the parents were thinking. They're thinking, the kids must love it here. Right? Now here's the thing. I would tell my students all the time, I'm the friendliest and the meanest person in this building. It's completely up to you which one you get. Because please understand, this isn't rainbows, glitter, and unicorns. It isn't. There is a time and a place for consequences and discipline. And I was fierce. I did not budge. This is what the expectations are. I would use my nighttime DJ voice, but you're going to get the consequence. But if you're doing what it is you're supposed to do, I'm your man. I'm on top of it. I got you. I have fun with you. I also enjoy charity. One of the things we did at my school, at one time we had 7 type 1 diabetics in our school. The students had diabetes, so we did a diabetes foundation walk where the kids all came outside. We did a walk and we raised money for a good cause. That's important to me. I shared that with my students. We were actually in the United States. We were the #1 kids walk school in the country. We raised over $75,000 for juvenile diabetes because it's important. I share what's important to me. Thank you. Oh, this is my cyborg costume, right? I used to be an art teacher. I taught art, painting, drawing, and I love Star Trek. So one of the things in Star Trek was this Borg. So I made this Borg costume as well. I loved it. Well, this one time when I was an art teacher, and we had this student. His name was David. Now, the thing about David is David was such a happy kid. He was that kid who had like a little bounce in his step all the time. Everybody loved David. He had a smile. He was super positive. Now, the thing about David is David was a football phenom. Like, he loved football, soccer, whatever you want to call it. And he wasn't just loved it. He was amazing at it. Amazing. There were news articles, TV on this little 5th grade boy who was amazing with ball handling, seeing the field, and playing soccer. So he was on this very high-end soccer team. His coach was actually a former U.S. soccer player. Well, one day they're at practice, the coach decides to play with the boys, and he's one who shows off. David got in front of him. The coach did a big kick by accident, and he actually kicked David and fractured his femur. It was bad. It was tough. News spread through the town instantly. The next day that we saw David in school, he had this huge big cast on, and David wasn't David anymore. He wasn't himself. His head was down. He had these big crutches. He just wasn't himself. So me and a few other teachers, we did what we can to cheer David up. We would try to say things or do something special to cheer him up, but nothing would work. So I had an idea. Why not share what's original to me? So I went to David's parents and I asked them, I said, is David going to the costume party at the end of the month? And they said, no, I don't think he wants to go at all. I said, I have a costume I can put him into. Can I come by your house, put him in the costume, and take him to the party? They're like, yeah, sure, let's give it a shot. So the day of the party, I went by his house. David had no clue that I was coming. When I got there, I started putting him into this costume, and he was a very polite young man, and he said, thank you, Mr. Bowe, but I could tell in his eye he really did not want to go. So I put him into this costume. This is David. I told him, I forced him to smile. I said, give me a smile on the picture, and he did. Me and his father helped him get to the car. We took him to the party. He got first place in the costume contest. First place. The next day in school, David was back. He was happy. He was energetic. He was crutching with excitement and vigor. Why? Because I shared what was original to me with him. Relationships. We could talk about integrity, we could talk about climate culture, we could talk about all those different things. Developing relationships, sharing what's original to you with others. They're not always going to like every little thing about you. But you got to be a little bit more vulnerable and try to make that connection. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I'm going to start having that positive self-talk to myself. You're thinking, you know what, I have a better understanding of what climate and culture really is, not just in the school and in my job, but in my family. I'm going to have that positive self-talk. I'm going to start using daytime DJ voice for positive things and nighttime DJ voice for negative things. We're going to work on being committed to what you respect and value. You're going to maximize and increase your level of integrity, and then you're going to start trying your best to make those connections and relationships with others. Now, one of the things that I say all the time is, when you stand tall, you don't think small. Now, yes, it has a little bit to do with something because I'm a tall person, but I truly believe that if you learn something new, you are metaphorically standing taller. You are. You got new knowledge, new understanding, you're standing taller. And because you are standing taller, you can't think smaller. You can't think less than. And if you do, shame on you. Hopefully today I gave you some information. Hopefully my good friend Dick Moore gave you some good information that now that you're standing taller, take it, use it, implement it into your life, implement it into your school, into your organization, into your job, into your workplace. And stand tall. Don't think small. Hey, I want to thank you for your time. I hope I gave you something of value. Have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, evening, and good night. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, thank you. Am I supposed to let everybody go? Okay, hey, all right. No, I don't have to do the tap dance, all right? We're good? All right. There you go.